Welcome friends. In previous lecture we have seen the dynamic loading and the mechanism of failure due to the dynamic loading. In today's lecture we are going to discuss the remaining portion and also we will discuss the four different failure theories under dynamic loading condition. So let's start with the ascent curve. Before that I will revise this portion. We have already seen how the maximum force is responsible for the failure, whether it is a static loading condition or a dynamic loading condition. We have seen under dynamic loading condition, the critical situation or the critical loading condition is the completely reverse loading condition, where you will find the sigma max is and the variable stress is comparatively more as compared if we will compare with the repeated loading, fluctuating loading and alternating loading. We have seen this in previous lecture. If you have not watched it, go back and check out our playlist. Here you can see that in all the cases the maximum stress value is 80, let us say 80 megapascal, and you can find the variable stress is different for different loading condition, and it is maximum for the completely reverse loading condition, and in other all the cases it is lesser than 80. So moving forward, this is the graph, or you can see a comparative study of different stress values and how many life cycles or the loading cycle particular component can do before fatigue failure. Why we are talking about the fatigue failure only? Because we know that in dynamic loading we always design a material for completely reverse loading condition, because if it can sustain in completely reverse loading condition, it will definitely going to sustain in all other dynamic loading conditions like fluctuating, repeated loading and all. So this is the graph for the completely reverse loading condition, where you will find at what value of the stress the component will perform higher number of life cycles or the stress cycles before fatigue failure. Fatigue failure is the type of failure in the completely reverse loading condition. Why I have already explained in previous lecture. You can check out my previous lecture for dynamic loading condition part 1. This is the in coming part we will going to discuss the failure theories and remaining important formula also. So look at here. Let us give me one example. If you put a load of 100 kg on my head and ask me to walk for a kilometer or two, then you will find after a particular distance I will not able to carry the 100 kg of load. And if you will find or draw a graph, let us say it come equal to I mean to say I will walk, let us say 80 kilometers, sorry 100 kilometers or 1 kilometer I was talking about. So I will take the same example. Instead of 1 kilometer I am able to walk only 800 meters, right? That means lesser than 1 kilometer. Then if you will reduce the load on my head to 50 kg, then you will find I can able to walk more than 800 meters. Even if you will go on decreasing the load, I can carry the load for maximum distance, more than 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers. And finally, if you are go on decreasing the load, you will find at particular value of load which is creating particular stress. Let us say I am carrying 100 gram of mobile phone. on my head. So will I fail at any point of time in all over my life? No, it cannot reduce my efficiency. So that value of 100 gram will be the endurance limit for me. So that for particular stress which is created due to this 100 gram of load, that stress will be the endurance stress or endurance limit for me. Similarly, I have drawn a graph for ferrous material. Let us say if I will reduce the value of stress by reducing the load or the maximum stress, you will find that at particular let us say stress SYT, and that is the strength of a particular ferrous material, I will fail or a component will fail. Let us say if I am talking about the ferrous material, component will fail here at SYT or any other value. If it is a brittle material, I can say that it is failing at ultimate strength. But we are talking about this green line. If you will reduce the load, you will find that reducing if you will create a stress lesser than just a minute, lesser than SYT here. Let us say the stress created is lesser than SYT, new stress, let us say sigma 1 for this cycle. You can find a complete one cycle can be done without failure, fatigue failure. So if I will again reduce this stress value, then this, let us say I am putting a stress something sigma 2, this was sigma 1, right? Now you can find a component can run or give a life of more cycles, and if I will go on decreasing this stress value, once you will get such a graph where component will not fail up to a 10 to the power 6 cycles, that means 1 million cycles, then such a stress value will be called as the endurance limit. We have already discussed this in previous lecture, and we have also defined the endurance limit. It is actually the maximum variable stress value for which under the completely reverse loading condition, for which a component can give infinite number of life cycles, or it will not fail for infinite number of life cycles due to the fatigue, right? So moving to the next slide. Now SN curve. What this y axis is denoting stress, denoted by S, and on the x-axis I have put the number of cycles which a component can give for particular stress value. That means how much number of cycles. If let us say this is the our component shaft, circular shaft, and particular what I can see stress or load is applied on this shaft, and how many times it will rotate. Let us say, you know that here will be a compression and here will be a tension. So this compression tension one revolution will generate one cycle. So how many number of cycles a component can perform with different loading condition or different stress values generated due to different loading condition. So you can see this graph will be like this. This curve you can get after reducing the stress value. Let us say this is particular value. Here you can see where the value is. I will change the color so there will not be a confusion. Yeah, you can see here this particular value is nothing but point line. That means 90% of the SUT. If I will put a 90% of SUT stress equal to 90% of SUT, then I will get particular point y coordinate. Let us say this y coordinate is 90% of SUT, and on the x-axis I will get x coordinate, which will denote the number of number of cycles for before the fatigue failure. So here you can see for ferrous material up to 10 to the power 3 cycles you can get the life if you are going to put the stress equal to the 90% of its SUT. Right? If you go on decreasing the load or the stress, the curve will be like this, and at particular one value of stress you will find that component is not at all failing even up to the cycles of 10 to the power 6, and this particular test is called the Moore test. It is actually a testing machine in which rotating beam is tested for the fatigue failure. Let us say this is that beam, and this beam is rotated under this particular stress value up to the 10 to the power 6 cycles, and once it is found that it is not failing, we will define it as this is the endurance length of this particular component, designed component for the particular whatever may be the shape and size for the same material. And this endurance limit, after this stress value, you will find there is a asymptotic or straight line. The behavior of this curve is straight line, asymptotic. So you can consider it will give you an infinite life before the fatigue failure, right? Then you can see here, and I have written some high cycle fatigue and low cycle fatigue. As I was talking about the stress value equal to the 90% of SUT, and this whatever the number of life cycles we are getting, those are called as low cycle fatigue, or up to this limit that will be a low cycle fatigue. That means above this 90% of SUT, if I will going to apply a stress, this complete region will be called as low cycle fatigue, and after that up to this 10 to the power 6 cycles we will call it as a high cycle fatigue. It is just for your information. Actually the numerical or questions will come from the log log graph. That is for if you want to find a particular life cycle. Let us say here you want to find the life cycle of a component, and you know the SE value, then the ultimate strength, or it may be a yield strength, and the endurance limit. All these values if you know, and if you are asked to find the particular life for a given stress value, then how can we find? For that purpose we will draw a graph for the log of this stress versus the log of this number of cycles. Let us say log base 10 of S and log base 10 of N, so that we will get the straight line, and by using the trigonometric formulae we can easily find out the values or required values. Let us say I have taken the log base 10 of the stress and n number of cycles. Actually this is not a n, it is a log base n. Okay, this is a log base n. Log base 10 of n. Right. Now here you can see we have worked the straight line. Now if I know these values, let us say this value I know 90% of SVT, then the standard value from the experiment, endurance limit also we know, right? So if you know this side of this, you know the value of this side of the triangle, this side of the triangle, you can find the theta, right? So basically questions are asked in this high cycle fatigue range from here to here, this. Okay. So we will just consider this much portion of the graph, right? Now here we have considered from the 90% of the FVG stress, and we have put the log values of this. We will get this such type of graph. Now if I will say this value is 350, this value at point A, and the log base 10 of SE, that is the endurance limit, is 150. I am writing the values itself. This is 350, and you know the life cycle here. After taking the log, you will get this 6 value. Log base 10 of the 10 to the power 6 will be equal to 6, and similarly here 3. Now if you know this side, and you can find the theta. Now it is given that at this stress value, let us say this is 200, and the stress value of the 200, that is log base 10 of some stress is coming here. I will write log base 10 of this 200. Find the number of life cycle it will give before the fatigue failure. Now you know this side of the larger triangle and this side also. So without finding theta also you can write this, find out the required value. If you will put the opposite upon adjacent, A, this is point B, AB divided by BC. You know both these values, right? And what will be our new triangle? It will be this, right? Because we are finding value associated with this point. So ED, opposite side upon ED upon DC. Sorry, CD or DC. See. Or you may get confused. I will write it DC here. Now only this value is unknown. All these three values are known to you. You can find this value of DC. Once you get the value of DC, this length, what you have to do? Just subtract it from 6. 6 minus DC, you will get the value of X. Okay, that will be the that will nothing but the in terms of log base 10 of X, right? Or if you want to find the N value here, this will be in terms of log base 10 of required hour, let us say N1. This N1 will give you the exact number of life cycles before the fatigue failure. It will come something greater than 10 to the power 3 and less than 10 to the power 6. Alright. Sorry, I have written it wrongly. The N value will be greater than. Okay. N value will be greater than 10 to the power 3 and lesser than 10 to the power 6. So this was all about the finding values from the graph. One more thing which we have left is that you know that even even though material are same, because this value of endurance strength or endurance limit is independent of the material property. Basically, theoretically it is true, it is independent of material property, but in actual, if we will compare KT, that is theoretical stress factor, and actual stress factor will not be same. So we will discuss first theoretically the what I can say endurance limit or the maximum stress which a component can sustain for a infinite life before the fatigue failure will be dependent upon only the size and the surface finish. This is related to the notch and all. We will discuss it in detail in coming slides. Just you understand that the endurance limit is inversely proportional to the size. As the size goes and increases, you will find there will be more number of discontinuity. Let us say there may be invisible notches like this notches which will propagate and fail due to fatigue. So larger is the size of the component. Let us say this is the component. There will be more number of discontinuities. So it will fail at lower stress value because there will be higher stress concentration. Here will be stress concentration. Here will be stress concentration, and at multiple points there will be stress concentration, and it will be invisible by naked eye. Yes, and it also depends on the surface roughness. More the smooth or the material will be, more the endurance limit, and more the roughness will be present, lesser will be the endurance limit. Okay. Now we will discuss about the failure theories. Before that, I will talk on this KT, that is the theoretical value of a what I can say stress concentration. You know that if the material, even the material are different, but their shape and size is same. Let us say these are two different materials A and B. KT will be same, KT1 equal to KT2 because their material shape and size are same. But in actual, what happens? In actual, if the ductile material is there, due to application of load, there will be a stress redistribution. There will be somewhat deformation like this. So stress concentration factor will reduce. It will be always lesser than the, for simplicity I will write here KF, it will always lesser than the KT value. I am talking now about this first component, KT1, right? This one. So in actual practice, KT1 will be always greater than the actual stress concentration factor, which is denoted by KF, also known as dynamic stress concentration factor or fatigue stress concentration factor. So now we will discuss some formulae related to this and failure theory. Here you can see the KF is defined, and the formula for it is like this: SC dash divided by SC. What is SE dash? It is the endurance limit for the standard specimen. Standard specimen means there are no notches and any type of roughness. That means ideal condition, which is actually not possible every time because there are always manufacturing errors, human errors present. Not only the human error, but the manufacturing error due to weather condition and all, which we cannot define. So this endurance limit for notch free, that means standard specimen, will have always higher value than the actual endurance limit. Okay, here we can say that SE will always be greater. How we have defined it? Kf is equal to the ratio of endurance limit for standard specimen to the endurance limit of actual specimen having notches, invisible notches, right? So we have defined that, we have derived or justified that SC dash will be always greater than the SE. So now if it is the condition, then you will find Kf value will be greater than 1. How? Let us say SE is 2 and SE dash is 2 and SE is 1, lesser, which will be lesser than 2. Let us say I am taking input. You will get always a value greater than 1. Right? Here it may be 1.5 or anything. Just this SE dash is always greater than SE. That's why we are getting a value always greater than 1. Okay. This Kf will always greater than 1. Now, for finding the SE value, what will I do? I will convert this Kf in terms of Kd, 1 by Kf. Just we have written it separately. SE dash into 1 by Kf, and I am putting Kf equal to 1 by Kf is equal to Kd. Here you can see I have let Kd equal to 1 by Kf, and you know that Kf will always be greater than 1. That's why Kd value, that is the reciprocal of Kf, will always be lesser than 1. So not only this Kd, all these multiplication factors in designing of component under dynamic loading condition, all will be lesser than 1. That's why we are getting the endurance limit lesser than the SE dash, actual endurance limit lesser than the endurance limit for the standard specimen. Here we have written the equation for the SE. Now we will see what this Ka, Kb, Kc and Kd value are. Ke is the not Ke. Ka is the factor which considers the irregularity or the difference between the size, which will be taking care of the size of the components. If two components are of different size, then how their endurance limit will change. Let us say these are two components. Depending on their size, this is higher component, larger, and this is smaller. This Ka factor will take care of this size, so known as size factor. Similarly, Kb is surface finish factor. You know that endurance limit is directly proportional to the surface finish and it was inversely proportional to the surface roughness, right? Kc is the reliability factor. Let us say any human error if there, depending upon the personnel, how much skilled he is, this will be decided, and many other factors are also responsible in deciding this Kc. Just you remember that all these Ka, Kb, Kc and Kd will be lesser than 1. Alright. Now let us start with our formula useful for the finding the or is useful for the failure theory. Notch sensitivity factor, Q. It is defined as the ratio of actual increase of the stress over nominal stress to the theoretical increase of stress over nominal stress. Sigma naught is nominal stress right? We have derived equation for Kt. We know that Kt is equal to sigma max divided by sigma naught. So I can write sigma max in terms of Kt. Now our definition of Knox sensitivity factor is theoretical increase in the stress over sigma naught by theoretical increase of stress over actual increase of stress over the nominal stress divided by the theoretical increase of stress over the nominal stress. So first we will find the theoretical increase of stress over nominal stress. We know that the difference of the sigma max and sigma naught will give the increase in the stress value over the nominal stress. Let us say nominal stress is somewhat 2 and sigma max is 3. Then if I will subtract this 3 minus 2, I will get the theoretical increase in the stress over the sigma naught. Okay. So putting the value of sigma naught, this value here, Kt sigma naught minus sigma naught. Finally, we will get sigma naught into Kt minus 1. Similarly, actual increase of stress over nominal stress will be given as sigma naught into Kf minus 1. So now we will put this value in this formula. Q is equal to this one divided by this one. I will give equation number 1 and this equation number 2. So Q will be 1 divided by 2. Here you can see Q is equal to equation number 2 divided by equation number 1, that is sigma naught Kf minus 1 divided by sigma naught Kt minus 1. Finally, Q equal to Kf minus 1 by Kt minus Kf minus 1 by Kt minus 1. And you know well that actual stress concentration factor Kf is equal to Sc dash divided by Sc. Sc dash is the endurance limit for the standard specimen and the Sc is the actual stress endurance limit for the actual component having notches and all invisible notches or irregularities or discontinuities. Now we will find the different value of Kf and the conditions, design condition, which is the best design condition, which is the worst design condition, by giving different values to the Q. Right? If we will put value of Q equal to 0 in this equation, what we will get? You will get Kf equal to 1. That means actual stress concentration factor is equal to 1. And what it means, if it is 1, then Sc dash will be equal to Sc. That means you are getting the endurance limit in actual exactly equal to the endurance limit for the standard specimen, which is not possible, but it is the ideal condition. So we will put another value for the Q in second case. Let us assume Q is equal to 1. Okay, by putting this in the equation for the Q, we will get Kf is equal to Kt. Here you can find that the stress concentration factor, actual stress concentration factor, is exactly equal to the Kt, that is theoretical stress concentration factor. You can see that you may be aware that Kt can be 1 or more than 1, 1, 2, 3 like this. But if Kf is, let us say, 1 or more than 1, then that condition is very worst. That design will be called as very worst. So our desired value of Q should be less than 1. right? It should be less than, then and then we will say it is a good design. So we have seen that Q value ranges from 0 to 1. Now there are 4 theories of failure for designing a machine component under dynamic loading condition. We will see these theories one by one.